My best friend and I are the same age, in the same grade, attend the same school, and have many of the same interests. We both love art and Taylor Swift. Growing up, we watched My Little Pony, had birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese, and ate McDonald's chicken nuggets. We both identify as American, even though our parents are Indian. The biggest difference between the two of us is that she has lived in the US for 8 months longer than me. In other words, she was born here and is a US citizen by birth. So when grown-ups ask me, and kids my age, questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Where do you want to go to college? Where do you want to live someday? She can answer these questions confidently, knowing that she won't be forced to leave the only place she has known as home. But for kids like me, even kids who you may perceive as having so much privilege, our answer to these questions is I'm not sure what I'll be allowed to do or where I'll be allowed to go or live. We are legal immigrants. Yes, legal. So what does that mean? We hear a lot about illegal immigration in this country and the issues surrounding it. But legal immigration is not talked about much. And if you don't know what that means, you're not alone. The definition of legal immigration is the process of formally admitting people who were born in other countries into the US. Those individuals must then go through a long, arduous process in order to become what is called permanent residents, also called the green card holders who can eventually apply for citizenship. It also means that my friend, who was born in the US, can get her summer job, get her driver's license, apply for college loans, and has the choice to join the military and serve her country. Kids like me cannot do any of those things. So how long do you think it would take me to be allowed to do all the same things that my friend can? The best way to explain this would be to walk you through my own family's immigration journey. Filled with hopes and dreams, my parents, who were working as software engineers in India, came to this country on a work visa in March of 2009, hoping for more opportunities and a better life. I was 8 months old at the time. They filed the first step of our permanent residency application in October of 2011, when I was 3, and then began the wait, which has lasted 13 years. For as long as I can remember, I've had regular nightmares about being sent back to India, where I would wander the foreign streets, have to adjust to an unfamiliar education system, not be able to read the signs or understand the social norms, and where I wouldn't know anyone other than my grandparents, who I've only seen through video chats due to the challenges with international travel as a legal immigrant. My greatest fear is being forced to return to a place I have never really known. India is as foreign to me as it is to you, except I can pronounce the names correctly, Bhumika, not Bhumika. And thanks to my parents, I love Indian movies, food, clothes, and enjoy celebrating Indian festivals here in the US. But that's about it. The hardest part about being a legal immigrant is not being able to picture our own future, to imagine life as a grown-up in this country, because we are living in this limbo. I'm 14 years old. I certainly do not know how to reform the immigration system. But I do know that it's not working the way it is now, and I know how it feels to experience firsthand a life restricted by this system. So, what does life look like for legal immigrant kids after high school? By the time we're 21, if we don't get our papers by then, we age out of the system. We will then have to leave the country we have called home our entire lives. In order to return to the US, we will have to start the immigration process over from scratch. Meaning if I left at 21 today, becoming a permanent resident of the country I have always called home would take at least 37 years based on the current statistics. And that number is only going to increase from here. To put this into perspective, I would be 58 when this would happen. Kids like me could stay for college after aging out if somehow our families could afford to pay the international tuition, which is almost 2 to 3 times as much as the regular tuition without any access to aid whatsoever. Worse, we still can't work anywhere off campus, which means no extra income to support our studies ourselves. We lose out on valuable resume-building work experience, making finding a job all the more difficult after we graduate, which is already challenging enough for people with student visas. This is because once we graduate, we first need to find a company or employer that will sponsor our work visa, which in itself takes a substantial amount of extra time, money, and stress. After all this, our application enters the lottery system to be granted a visa, but getting it isn't even guaranteed after all this work, because just like any other lottery system, there are no guarantees. It feels like, for my whole life, my time has just been running out. On top of it, being from India doesn't even help. This is because India is a country with a very high immigrant population, and each country, regardless of the total population, is given the same number of green card allotments, meaning Monaco, with a population of 39,000 people, and India, with a population of 1.3 billion, are each allotted 4,040 green cards every year. Monacan immigrants will get their green card within months, while people from countries with a higher immigrant population, like India, China, Mexico, and the Philippines, will have to wait decades. So, what does the actual immigration process look like for employment-based applicants? The first step is proving that no American has the skill set needed for a particular job, which takes about 6 to 8 months to get approved. The date that you filed this step is called your priority date. So for my family, this is back in October of 2011. Following the completion of this step is verifying that both the employer and the employee are truthful and no scams are occurring, adding another 6 to 8 months before moving on to the next and final step, which is waiting for your priority date to become current. Now is when the real wait starts, but not just wait, but wait without any end in sight. The green cards are processed based on the priority dates published in the visa bulletin every month. But even if your priority date is shown on the current month's visa bulletin, there's no telling whether it'll take a month, a year, or even 10 years to receive your green card because of the constant fluctuation of what's being processed currently at various centers. Yes, it's a long, complicated process, but it's well worth it. As you know, the US is the land of opportunities, a place where we're all encouraged to chase our dreams and turn them into reality. But kids like me are at a huge disadvantage. So how many kids am I talking about here? There are over 200,000 legal dreamers in the US currently whose future remains uncertain because of this flawed immigration system. This is why I am standing here today, to advocate on behalf of all of us. Kids like me would also like to contribute and work towards the future of the only place we've known as home. And now I can officially call it home. In the months since preparing to do this talk, my family found out that our petition for permanent residency has been approved. And now I can finally imagine the future I've only dreamed of living. But there are still over 200,000 legal dreamers who need your help to change the course of their future. If you look back in history at the notable changes made in our society, it wasn't because of politicians or lawmakers alone. It was because of the people from the community, people like you and me, who cared enough to speak up and take it upon themselves to push for making changes to the system one small step at a time. As I conclude, I want to say that with your help, I hope to find ways to reform this flawed immigration system by bringing to light the challenges that legal dreamers face today. Thank you.